Right, so it's 3 p.m. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are all set to begin with another stimulating session on connecting the dots. First of all, we would like to thank our esteemed speakers for being part of the panel discussion. Welcoming Mr. Sandeep Kumar, Head India HR Operations, Sodexo, Mr. Govind Negi, Head of Talent, Europe and India, Delivery Center Head, Three Pillar Global. Mr. Kuar Singh, Regional Head HR, South Asia, APL Logistics, and Mr. Devang Pandya, Human Resource Manager, Pacific Group of Companies. Our esteemed panelists would share their views on the topic embracing the inevitable change. Pandemic has changed the workplace we have known it. Organizations of all sizes are in a constant state of change now more than ever. External and internal factors include but aren't limited to growth, lack of growth, economic cycles, emerging technologies, shifts in the competitive landscape, figuring out how to best lead this generational workforce, cultural gaps, and communication challenges. While the physical space still exists, the overall idea of what a workplace is and what it is for needs to be reimagined. HRAI welcomes you all to the session on connecting the dots. To know more about HRAI and its events, I would request all our participants to visit the link and details posted in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We will be running a poll before the Q&A session. Request all the participants to kindly give your feedback on the session. I now take the privilege to introduce our moderator for the session, and further he can take it forward from here. Mr. Devang Pandya, Human Resource Manager, Pacific Group of Companies. He is presently working as an HR manager leading two verticals, talent acquisition and HR BP with Pacific Group of Companies Ahmedabad, and has 15 plus years of industry experience in multiple sectors like information technology, KPO, FMCG, and pharmaceuticals in leading MNCs and Indian companies. He has worked very closely with businesses in managing mission critical projects and assignments and provided a strategic perspective to the business. He is passionate about keeping up his own learning curve while developing and coaching teams and extending teams. Qualified MBA with a specialization in human resources and pursuing his PhD on the topic of HR analytics. Certified in HR analytics from IIM Rohtak and holds a diploma in training and development from ISTD Delhi. You can follow him on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. Over to you, Mr. Devan.
Thank you, Faisal. Thank you, HRAI, for organizing this wonderful session on embracing the inevitable change. Here, I take the opportunity to introduce my esteemed panelist. I'll start with Mr. Sandeep Kumar, who is acting as a head India HR operations for Sodexo. Sandeep Kumar, a seasoned human resource professional, is an alumnus of Xavier's Institute of Social Sciences, Ranchi. He is currently heading the HR operations of Sodexo India. He has more than 2 decades of experience. He has also worked with HCL for more than a decade, handling various roles of business HR partner, as well as leading Center of Excellence for talent creation and talent development. He is passionate about mentoring young HR professionals, enabling business growth, and bringing effective cultural changes through innovative and transformational HR practices. He has worked extensively in the areas of talent acquisition, talent management, and HR automation. He has been recognized as one of the top 100 great people manager in India for 2021 by Great Manager Institute, featured in Forbes India. He's also he is on the HR subcommittee of Tourism and Hospitality Skill Council, contributing towards creating an employable talent pool for the industry. Sandeep is a fitness enthusiast and loves to participate in long distance running. You can follow him on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. Welcome, Sandeep.
Thank you, Devang. Thank you for the lovely introduction.
Thank you, Sandeep. I would like to introduce Mr. Govind Negi, who is our second panel member. He is head of talent for Europe and India, delivery center lead for India in 3Pillar Global. He is an HR and business leader, blogger, social activist, and investor with dual masters in computer application and business administration from Symbiosis University. And having 20 plus years of rich experience in the field of talent management. He has been awarded as HR leader by the Great Place to Work, top 100 HR tech minds by World HRD Congress, best CHRO by We Matters, top 20 India Talent Champions and L&D leader by CHRO Summits, and honorary professorship by SPSU University. Currently, he is designated as head of talent Europe and India for a global IT company called 3Pillar Global, having a global presence in 8 countries: US, India, Romania, Mexico, Costa Rica, Czech Republic, Canada, and the UK. He is also the founder of HR social group called HR Success Talk. I'm proud to say that I'm also part of HR Success Talk, which has 150,000 members and also a regular blogger. He enjoys guiding young HR professionals in their growing career. He is the founder and trustee of an NGO called Amrita Devi Foundation that works for women's skill development and employment in Uttarakhand. You can follow him on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. Thank you and welcome, Govind, for being the part of this panel discussion.
Thanks, Devang, and it is my pleasure to be with such an esteemed panelist and people who come up with such a rich experience. I hope this conversation will give the insight our audience is looking for.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Our next panelist is Mr. Kunwar Singh. He is Regional Head HR South Asia for APL Logistics. Kunwar has been a senior HR leader with global exposure and almost 20 years of overall experience in APAC and Middle East region with diverse industries. Bulk of his experience has been with one of the prime Fortune 500 companies, Rolls-Royce, Aerospace and Technology Solutions. In addition to the IT and FMCG organizations, he has patterned in the business. Kunwar has been recognized in the top 50 young HR leaders pan-India through People Matters and KPMG in year 2015. He has championed business partnering and influences and guides the business on organizational development, transformation, and change management, total rewards, project management, diversity, inclusion, and business ethics. His aspirations are to continue building the EVP and contribute to the core business on people topics through effective collaboration with the wider teams. You can follow him on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. Welcome, Kunwar, for this esteemed panel discussion.
Thanks, Devang, and thanks, co-panelists. Looking forward to a rich conversation in the next 40-45 minutes. Thank you all.
Yes. So with that, we'll start with our panel discussion. And thank you, everyone, for joining this session. We have always heard, or we are listening it from our childhood, that the only things constant is the change, right? And we have experienced the extreme change in this pandemic time, especially people were not ready for giving work from home. Now majority of the companies are well equipped for hybrid kind of situation. We have seen great resignations. We have seen great appreciation and increments, especially in IT and tech companies, right? So all that sudden inevitable changes we have gone through and we would be seeing in the future. So I'll shoot my first questions on this topic to Sandeep Kumar, that What are the key instruments you feel that can support embracing the change? Over to you, Sandeep.
Thank you, Devang. So, thanks. It's a very beautiful question to set the tone, because, as you said, since our childhood, we have been listening to this adage that change is the only constant. See, any change, whether it's a big change or small change, is always a complex change. Nothing is simple, because change requires like the elements which I feel is very much important for managing any change. So to me, this classical model which I've always been following has 5 components. First is, what is the vision for bringing about this change? So if you have the vision clear, you will be, your half of the race is done. So once you've decided that why do you want to make this change, and this role, who plays this role? This role is played majorly by the leader. But if it is a shared vision, if the leader has been able to share it with all, and everybody is been able to sail in the same boat, then that shared vision gives you a big impetus in bringing about that change. Followed by one of the most important component, that is called the skills to do the change. So whosoever is going to make that change happen, are they skilled to do it, or we have just decided that we'll make a change, but we have not yet skilled our people. We have not yet understood that who will be doing it, whether they have got the right skill to do it. So suppose you have got the vision, the skill, then what is there in it for me? So anybody who is getting affected by this change, either from within or outside, internal team or external ecosystem, whosoever is getting affected by this change, do they see some incentives in this particular change is one of the key component which you need to look at. So if you have taken care of that incentive also, then do we have the resources to bring about the change is the next question which we need to ask for. If we have the resources, then our job is done. If we have all the vision, if you have all the skills, you have the incentives, you know why it is to be brought in. But if you don't have the resources, you would really struggle. And then finally, with all these, the vision, the skill, incentive, and resources, if you don't have an action plan to bring about that change would not happen. I'll take one more minute to tell you that what happens if one of these things are missing. So suppose out of these 5, vision is missing. So what would happen? You will have a lot of confusion. There won't be any change. You have the skills, you have the incentives, you have resources, you have the action plan, but you don't know where to go, why to go there. Then what you will create is not a change, it will be a confusion. Suppose the skill is missing. So you have the vision, you have the incentive, you have the resources, you have the action plan, but you don't have the skill. Then everybody who is about to bring about this change and anybody who is going to get affected by this change will have lots of anxiety. So what are you creating? You're not creating a change, you are creating anxiety by missing the key component, which is skill. Suppose the incentives are missing. You don't know what is that which I'm going to get out of this change. You have the vision, you have the skills, you have the resources, you have the action plan. Then there would be a lot of resistance. People will not assist you in getting that change happen because they don't see anything for them into it. Suppose you have everything, but your resources are missing. So you have the vision, you have the skill, you have the incentive, and you have the action plan. Then what you will create is frustration. You will not bring about a change. You will create a big amount of frustration in the system as well as outside the system. And suppose you have everything, but you have not got the action plan right, then you will have a very false start, which will not bring about the change. So again, to key component, Devang, to your question, you should have the right vision, you should have the right skill sets, the right incentives for all the stakeholders, resources which are required, and the action plan to bring about this change. If you have all these 5, you can drive the change very well. Whatever it is, it's a small change in your own personal life, or it's a big change in your organization or in the society. I think that answers your question, Devang.
Yes, yes, very much. I guess, Sandeep, you mentioned about all these 5 key instruments, and from that only, I can go to my next question, which is for Govind. You talk about actions, and my question is for Govind is that what best practices does your organization follow? What all actions your organization takes in dealing with the change?
Yeah, thank you, Devang. And one of the things before I answer this question, I want to tell our audience is that Tripler Global right now is going through a lot of changes. And I think we are living those changes very much right now. And just to give you a context, Tripler Global is an US-based IT software product company, and we have presence all over the world in almost 10 to 12 countries. We are growing very, very fast. We are acquiring companies in multiple regions and countries. Recently, we acquired an organization in Canada. Now, you can understand if an organization is growing so fast, we have to change ourselves to make ourselves ready for that growth. And which is a good thing and also bad thing in the sense that the fast growth means fast changes you have to bring in your basics and fundamentals, which also means that every change needs some time, right? You just don't want to do a lot of changes together, which kind of disturbs your business as usual. But yes, right now, recently we are doing the reorganization of our complete organization in terms of the way we look at our verticals, which is, I think, a very heavy lifting. And we are also did our career architecture a couple of months back. So did couple of 2 big heavy lifting changes. The best practices, I would say, and I think Sandeep touched upon them pretty well. I will like to maybe double click on some of them based on what I think we have experienced while doing these changes since last 1.5 years. What I would say that don't be in rush to do a change. And I think many a times, because there's a pressure, there's a business pressure, there's a growth pressure, we want to do those changes as soon as possible so that we start seeing the impact of them earlier. But what happens is that if you are in a hurry and you don't spend time on planning, we end up doing mistakes which we could have avoided. And let me tell you, when we talk about changes, we are not talking about one aspect. It could be a change in the process which might impact your, like, resources is a word Sandeep used, right? And that could be your physical resource, that could be your people as well. And the biggest thing I'm worried about, not because I'm looking after talent, it's not because of that, but I think the biggest worry I have in the changes is the changes which impact people, because this is something you can't roll back. So imagine you are coming up with the software, you messed up, data got uploaded wrongly, you can change it, right? You can just say, okay, I have to wake up for another 2 nights and I can do it. But if you mess up with changes and communicate it badly or do something wrong while doing it with people, there is no rollback, right? You have left the wrong impression and the wrong thing to people, which will be very hard. So I think spending time on the planning will be the one thing I would say. Then I would say bring the right people, right stakeholder to the conversation table. Sometime in the hurriness, we forget that there are multiple stakeholders within the organization or outside the organization. We need to keep in mind while thinking how it's going to impact them. So making sure as one of the best practice that who are those stakeholders and who will be impacted with those changes is the key point. Communication plan. Well, that's gonna be the huge one, because how do you articulate your message, and especially when you're a global organization, and that's gonna be tougher because then there are cultural differences, the way you read the messages. How do you articulate your messages is going to be very key point. So if you're a global organization, a subtle message will be useful, but the double click or cascading the message can be given to the local leaders at the local organization so that they can keep the cultural part in the mind, but don't leave the main essence of the message you want to transform. So I think communicating the why behind where we want to go, I think will be a great step. Do the impact analysis. Where are the impacts happening? People, resources, external government bodies, your legal entity, your investors, anywhere you think the impact is going to come, I would say that make sure that you are able to measure it properly. Last but not the least, many changes fail because in the beginning we are very excited. Okay, we have to launch career architecture. Okay, we have to do the reorganization. Then, and the project is for, let's say, 8 months. In 2 months, all the energy is gone. And then because we have achieved the milestones which we wanted to achieve. What we forget is that there is a follow-up needed. There has to be a conscious follow-up where what we have achieved, had this made the impact we wanted? Did it impact somebody which we did not plan? How do we roll that back? How do we correct the plan? I think that is something we need to be watchful. So take it to the end, don't leave it in between. Those are the best practices, I would say, Devang. In my experience, in multiple changes we have made in 1.5 years, I learned, which I wanted to share with this audience.
Thank you, Govind. I think you have very well articulated the concept, and rather you have explained the strategies, practices which you used, and from that, if I take up, I mean, the role of leadership is quite important, I guess. And on the same pitch, I'll ask Kunwar if he can share that what should he thinks about the leaders, how leaders, or rather what should leaders do to bring a mindset shift in the team to face the change. Over to you, Kunwar.
Thanks, Devang. It's great hearing Sandeep and Govind. So before I answer the question, I'll take maybe a few seconds to just give you a personal example. I worked for over a decade with Rolls-Royce, and you know, it was quite a change from coming from an aerospace business or a power system, full technology business to a logistics company. And people ask me why, right? So I think very important to manage any change. This is a personal change for me for my career, and it was not planned. It had happened as a result of the pandemic, and I was in Singapore, based in Singapore for about 4 or 5 years. And then I reverted back to India, and I was looking for an opportunity. I landed up with another global company, which is APL Logistics. Now look at the coincidence that, you know, I've been my DNA working with Rolls-Royce has been a blue and a white. Giving you a very simple example, right? I've been blue, white. Those were the corporate colors, and I'm sitting in front of you. I've got into something. So I call it synergy, guys. Why I give you this example? Because the background, the businesses, the revenue models, the route to market might be very different between the two organizations. So similarly, whenever we are managing any change, yeah, this was a personal example, but from an organizational perspective, I think the first thing, and I really liked what Sandeep said, what's there in for me. I think that's the bottom line, everyone. Yeah. So till the time you don't showcase the incentive, and to me, the incentive is in form of synergies or a win-win. Yeah. To the smallest matter of changing a transport, a local conveyance policy, to merging a British company with a German company. I've done it all. And, you know, my learning, Devang, to your question is that you need to give the stakeholders that what's in there for them. Yeah, that's the first thing. Now I've got certain practices from my own experience and what I've seen in mergers, because we have been a British company in Rolls-Royce, and with APL, it's an American company. So like what Govind said, we've also been on a spree to acquire companies, and Rolls-Royce being, you know, one of the Fortune 500 companies, they said, oh, we are the best and we can acquire it, you know, like in a sec, which in reality does not happen because you need to manage the change. Yeah, you need to manage the change. So the best example I could give you is, I'll not name the company, but we went out to acquire a German company globally. Yeah. So look at the nuances. First of all, there is a cultural, you know, there's a cultural diversity, you know, that you need to manage. So I think we should be equipped and sensitive, yeah, to manage the diversity part of it. Links back to all, you know, the people. But I think, you know, they are coming from a different culture. What you tell them, what you write to them, you know, how you approach it becomes really sensitive. So to me, is first to manage the cultural diversity, and second is that time and again, the senior leadership also needs to do interventions, everyone. Yeah. So when I say interventions, they could be of various types. Govind just mentioned about career architecture. I'm going through the same. I'm implementing a Conferry career architecture in my organization, whereas in Rolls-Royce, I implemented Tower Watson. So, you know, you need to come up with these tools to kind of counter, because you need to get two cultures together, you need to get two systems together. Yeah. So in today's world where without a McKinsey or a BCG support, these organizations like APLs or Rolls-Royces can't really work, because they're so huge, so bulky, that you need to have these tools, these latest interventions. So second is interventions for me, and third is project management approach. I'm writing on my colleagues, my co-panelists' points, right? So I think Sandeep also mentioned about structure, about action planning. So just furthering it, it is a project management approach. A leadership buy-in, because you need monies, you need their blessings. Yeah, a leadership buy-in is another key component here. And as I said, digitization and automation, guys, is inevitable these days to manage any change. So those are kind of my kind of bullet points, or I would say best practices, you could say, Devang. But I think I've personally gone through them. I can keep hand on my heart. I can tell you that it's not easy. I could relate to the words more: confusion, anxiety, resistance, frustration, cold starts. And to tell you, they are more prevalent in any change rather than the ideal world, right? So we as leaders or we as influencers should be prepared for dealing with them. Those are my comments. Thank you.
So with the answer what you have gave, I remember the speech of Greta Thunberg in 2018 when she asked the world leaders that how dare you. She asked these questions to all leaders that how dare you. But when I go back and see that is it the only responsibility of leaders? So my question is to Sandeep, that how can we embrace change as an individual? Definitely leader have to do that mindset shift, but what is the contribution, or how can we embrace change as an individuals, especially to maximize our chances of success? Over to you, Sandeep.
I think Devang has answered this question partially, giving his own example, and that's a very apt example. And what he has told is in a very, very real world situation. While we are talking theoretically that these are the components, everything should be ideal, you should have the vision and all. But at times, all these 5 components are staring at you saying, I'm not there with you. And then you decide how are you going to manage this change, which has been forced upon you. That can be one, where the change has been put on your face that you have to accept this, or you have planned for a change. Okay. As far as planning for a change is concerned, as an individual, there is a great saying by Mahatma Gandhi that be the change what you want to see, right? So if you want to see a change, first you start with yourself. And I don't know whose story is right, whether it's Swami Vivekananda's or Mahatma Gandhi's, but this is a very common story which everybody talks about, that there was a mother who used to come and ask these great personalities that my son has a habit of taking a lot of sweets. So can you tell him to stop? Because if I am telling, he's not listening. If you will tell, he will stop, because you are a great person, great personality. And both of them denied. I mean, they did not react for close to a month or 45 days. Every time when she used to come and tell, request, they never responded. But after maybe a few weeks or so, when the mother again repeated that question, that day he said, don't take sweets. It will harm you. It will harm your teeth and all. Then she asked that, why did you do this? You could have done this 2 sentences in the beginning. He said, when you told me to do this, I was also taking a lot of sweets, right? So first, if I have to appear to be very convincing, to bring about a change to somebody else's life, first I have to get convinced that yes, there is a merit in this change. So I think that is one of the key component of any individual who wants to bring about a change when you are planning a change. The second opportunity comes to face a change and navigate through is what Kumar has demonstrated. Like the change came on your way, you are not ready, it came on your way. And what do you do? See, all of us who are there on this call have to meet our both ends meet. We have so many EMIs to pay, we have our life to run, we have our family to support. So all said and done, you need to do something. Even if you are very rich, there are rich people who are not happy because their kids are not rich, mentally, physically, even if they have the wealth, but mentally, physically, they are not very rich. So they are also figuring out how to navigate through this change or bring about this change. So again, I am telling you, see, if it has come, identify out of these 5 components, what is there in it. I mean, what is there which is in your favor at this point of time, and what is there which is not in your control, right? Your vision is not matching with the certain current circumstances, but do you have the resources? Maybe partially you have the resources. You may have to gain some of the resources. You may have to upskill yourself. May have to change your skills. A classic example I will give you from my industry is I belong to the tourism and hospitality industry, and during the pandemic, there were lots of people who lost their job because the hotels stopped operating, right? And many people who are hoteliers, they didn't have a job. What they did, they switched over to the adjacent space, whatever was the adjacent space, which was having the similar requirement of same set of skill sets, same set of resources, same set of educational qualification. So they just looked around, saw that what is there available, which is going to match at least 70-80% of my current assets. And they switched over to that, right? And that change, those people who took that step, that leap of faith, that they were able to navigate it. There are still some, I know some people who are still stuck there because they are in no man's land. They did not take that risk. So in a situation wherein the change is coming on your face, when you have no other thing to do, you have to take the risk. You have to take that plunge, and possibly the best thing to do is, as I say, अब और कुछ नहीं है तो जो है वही करते, के सरा सरा, right? So ke sara sara is the mantra if the change is coming to your face. And if you're planning, then you need to be the change which you want to bring in. And that's the 2 perspective which I think any leader should have when he's bringing about the change. Or for that matter, any individual. Every individual is a leader. Yeah.
Right. Nicely put across, Sandeep. And before I move to my next question, I'll request participants, if they have any questions, they can post it in the chat box so we can take those questions at the end. But yeah, you rightly said that be the change and face it. Both concept. If I take it from our entire answer which you gave, Sandeep, I can take it from that. So from that, I'll move to Kuwar actually, and I would like to know from Kuwar that what are the change management strategies he will suggest for digital transformation, especially because if you see now all are fascinated about the automation, AI, ML, and all that. So what are the change management strategies you'll suggest, Kuwar, for digital transformation to succeed in current times? Over to you, Kuwar.
Thank you. Thanks once again, Devang. A question very close to my heart. I'm also, my graduation is in digitization itself, but that's separate. Now, what's happening in today's world is, guys, expectation of experience. Yeah. So as a candidate, as a job aspirant, as my employee of the company, yeah, whether it's a global company or whether it's an Indian company, the experience, people, everybody wants to have, the best of experience starting from the time they are, they even know about the organization. Forget about applying for a job. Yeah. So there comes, that's at the forefront. Now there comes the role of, the teams behind it. I would say we have a team. We have recently formed a project team called HRIT. Most of my colleagues, panelists will also have that. Now, what's the role of HRIT? Now we are revamping, one of the strategies that, we saw that we had the age-old Taleo. Yeah, you would know it's an ATS, it's a automated tracking system. We had Taleo, and I tell you, if I had to apply a job at Taleo, I would rather not apply. It's so frustrating and it's really horrible right now. Imagine my son, right? Maybe, he's like 14, 15 now. When he goes to 21 and he looks at a Taleo to apply a job, he'd rather not work for the company because he's into designing and gaming. Yeah. Now, exactly, whether it's a logistics company or an aerospace company or any other technology company, I think all of us are moving towards digitization. Now, that was from the employee side. And quickly, I'll go back to the example and come back. Now, we are a logistics company, and digital tracking is our DNA, right? So we have that expertise. Now we used that expertise and identified a group of in-house resources. Yeah, again, Sandeep, your point, resources very important. Identified them, pulled into the HR IT team, looked at Oracle HCM, and we signed up with Oracle, just to give you an example. So what I'm trying to say here is work on the experience that you are going to give to all three parties: your potential internal customers, your current internal customers, and your stakeholders, guys. That's the first thing that we need to do now. To do that again, skills and a vision is again a key. So we wanted to be very sure that what end of the day we want to have. So having the result in mind is the second part of the strategy, Devang, to your question, right? So have the result in mind that tomorrow I want to see a seamless experience. You apply for the job, your offer letter comes like, on click of a button, automate the entire thing. And then the onboarding is happening digitally as well. And that's really a point I want to stop here for a couple of seconds. And today, the new starters in the post-pandemic world, the basic the challenge maybe from a Govind's perspective, running a global company, is like, how do we onboard them effectively? Yeah. So with digitization and having the strategy in place, the onboarding can be really very, very kind of close to heart. Yeah, people should feel that this is their first day in the organization without even going to the office. That's the second part of the strategy, guys. The third part, again, which we are working very actively, is revamping our learning management system. Yeah. So we again had a PowerPoint-based automated system from the last decade, which was redundant. Yeah. So we looked at OLC again, and Oracle as a bouquet is really, really doing well these days. It's competing with the Workday. I worked on Workday with the previous organization, but then Oracle is really supporting our thought processes, right? So whatever you think, they've got to present. So LMS, what LMS does is, you see, it simulates the learning environment. Yeah, because you are sitting I'm sitting on my dining table right now, and I'm supposed to do a training, whether it's a classroom training or whatever. So simulation, simulation is the future of learning. So these tools are enabling that. The last one which I'm going to mention again is a blend. The last strategy which we are doing is a blend of manual intervention and automation, or preparing our employees, our managers, to be the leaders for tomorrow. How we are doing that? There's a program that we have launched, and we're calling it Leadership 4.0. I mean, it's been stolen from the industry.
Kuwar, I think I've lost you.
Am I still there?
We can hear. I can hear him.
Yeah, you're audible. Cool.
Okay. Maybe something wrong with the automation here. Sorry, Devang. Devang, I think your frame is frozen. Sorry. So I'll continue. So I was on Leadership 4.0. So we have stolen this concept from Industry 4.0, and most of you might be aware, those who are not. So Industry 4.0 is about the fourth version of the industrial automation, the industrial revolution, right? So we moved from a mechanical to information to an automation, and today is all digitization, or digitization, exactly. So we have a module. So it's managing self, managing teams, and managing business on a industrial Leadership 4.0. So we are taking these employees and managers through the churn of starting from how do you be effective on Teams calls, until to manage a complex software like a Salesforce virtually. Yeah. So those are the strategies, guys. So I would say that enablement, the digitized enablement, is the foundation of whatever we are doing. And it requires a lot of belief, because unless you don't believe it, you'll not be able to convince your leadership teams to invest into it, because it requires investment as well, everyone. Yeah. So Devang, I'll summarize here. I think to have this enablement and to have these tools in place, belief, and also a bit of patience. They'll yield you results, but you need to kind of wait for the ROI. And as HR leaders, you yourself are being into analytics. We need to showcase a lot of analysis that how whatever you have put in is giving us the return on investment. The question. I hope I've been able to answer, closest to the expectations of the audience. Thank you.
Definitely, I guess because I sail in the same boat. We revamped, and rather I would call it we digitally transformed in my current company where I'm working, Pacific Group of Companies. So we recently implemented this online onboarding process, or rather LMS, which talks about stimulation and all that. So I can definitely relate it to this. Yeah, on the same note, in fact, I was reading while preparing for this particular panel discussion, and I was reading about the metaverse, which can change the future, or rather future of work can be changed because of the metaverse. That's what I was reading, but I would put it across to Govind that what is your belief, or what is your understanding that how metaverse can reshape the future of work? Over to you, Govind.
Yeah, Devang. But before I answer this question, I want to share one of my aha moment while listening to all those all the people here and their experiences. Change. We are like, sometimes it feels like when we talk about change management, such a huge thing. Corporates are doing it, but then I realized small stories like sweets eating or digital transformation. And during pandemic, we all have to go through change. Looks like change is part of everybody's life, right? Sometimes we don't realize we are going through a change. And sometimes we feel the principles are very much same, right? They are not different principles. Sometimes in organization, the changes is forced on you, like the COVID was forced on your life. So you have to deal with it, right? And there's a Hindi phrase used by Satip, so I don't remember that. But sometimes the changes are forced on you. That was my aha moment, that I don't think those principles are very distinct. It's just sometimes some common sense and learning from your life experience. I think people can definitely manage change as well. So thank you for being and listening my aha moment. Now coming back to your question on metaverse, I think sometimes I feel like who can be a better person than myself right now, because I am working with an IT company and we are talking about machine learning, AI, but metaverse is very high topic at this point in time, and I think most of us know. What I won't say is that it won't happen in future. It's definitely going to happen in future, but I think it's little far away. Sometime when we talk about artificial intelligence and stuff like that, a lot of companies doing a lot of research on artificial intelligence and also machine learning, but I think they are not able to get ROI on their research, because the research is very costly, and not small companies can actually bear the cost of that research. And end of the day, the outcome which is expected is not that great. And I think you must have heard a real example of a company who are into self-driven cars, right? They just came out of this business. They said, we can't afford to run this business because we don't see ROI. I don't think that the cars are ready, the infrastructure is ready. So what I'm saying is that it might be something future, but it is definitely going to happen, right? I don't know if 20 years back, somebody would have told me that we're going to be in the call like this and talking, I would have said the same thing. It's a future. Don't worry about that. But it is happening today, right? We are connected across the world here, talking and seamlessly, right? No problem. And we are able to have that conversation. My first interaction with metaverse, I'll tell you, and you will be surprised. I don't know how many of you know that. There is a game which my daughter used to play during COVID called Roblox. And one day I found her playing that game, and I went to that and said, what are you doing? And that game has like a virtual world. People are like living in a virtual world with a virtual identity. And that was my first kind of a glimpse of what a metaverse will look like. But that was a very low level of metaverse, right? When we talk about metaverse, we are talking about, for example, I am teleporting from here to Gujarat at Devang's place right now, immediately. That's what I think the metaverse is all about. As I said, it's going to take time, but it will change the way we work. And I would like to connect it with, and maybe the organizations who are giving the options to their employees for working remotely will understand it. This is a huge, huge, huge challenge that now organization in the beginning said, hey, we want to do work from anywhere, remote working, everything is good. But then we realized that it is giving a lot of putting a lot of hit on the employee engagement. It is very, very, very hard to inculcate those people to the culture of your organization when they are not coming to office, when you are not meeting them, right? So this is another challenge, and I believe metaverse might solve it to some extent, but it is long way to go. And I'll tell you, there are some challenges which might make it difficult. Is one, the infrastructure challenge. So there are two kinds of metaverse, by the way. The metaverse, which is like 2D metaverse, I would say this is also a metaverse. Like we are talking to each other, connecting, which is like more virtual, and which we see a lot of examples surrounding us, like a virtual game where you go inside it. That's the 2D kind of metaverse, and you can do it with your laptop. But I think what I'm referring here more with the 3D metaverse, where you actually teleport. And today I was talking to one of my colleague from US. She's visiting here in India, and we were talking about metaverse. I don't know, this is a very common topic came up, and she gave me an example that in one of the meeting, the COO couldn't join. So what COO did is he actually sent a robot. Like I think you must have seen some restaurant using those robots. Like they just walk around and take the orders, and that robot face was his face, and he was sitting somewhere virtually, and he was interacting and going and meeting people that way, and it was fun, I believe. But reaching to the stage when you can like teleport yourself is a long way, because this needs a lot of infrastructure at both ends. It will definitely change the way we work, like the way this Zoom calls have changed the way we work. The virtual calls has made it easy. Metaverse is going to make it happen. I think it's a talk of a decade after from now, but that's my opinion.
Thank you very much, Govind. I think you have put it across very nicely, and definitely, yeah, there is a time, but still we'll get the best out of it, I'm sure. So yeah, I have a last question, and I request all the panelists to give answer, because it is relevant to all the panelists. And but I would request to give a precise answer on this. Maybe you can take 1.5 minutes to answer this. That what role do you think that HR leaders, HR professionals have to play in the change management? And this can be started by, let's say, this can be started. The answer can be started by Sandeep, I would say. But yeah, I would request all the 3 panelists to answer this question. What role do you think that HR leaders, professionals have to play in the change management process? Over to you, Sandeep, first.
So as we talked about, the current changes are majorly around digitalization. So, and cultural change, like if 2 companies are merging and things like that. So to me, I think the best role HR has to play is to drive the culture along with the senior leadership in the company, that culture of change, ensuring that whatever bottlenecks are coming in terms of those 5 components, highlighting it to the senior management and being a very key partner in that entire change. Whether it can be any change, even if you are bringing a change, like Hoover is talking about tracking, getting digitized from a POD system to pen and paper POD system to a digital online on mobile POD system. So that is a technology which you have brought in, but ultimately that technology is to be used by the person who is going to deliver. That person may not be very literate. That person may not be very highly qualified. But so what the HR team has to do, or the HR leader has to do, is to make sure that whatever change you are bringing in is usable by all. Okay, so keep in mind that in the entire organization, everybody is not equally qualified, equally having the access to technology. Many of them are not literate when it comes to in our company, many of the housekeepers are not literate. Delivery boys are literate that much enough to read the address and go and deliver something. So how do you enable it to make it very simple so that the use of technology or use of change is adapted by everybody is what HR has to keep in mind and keep on reminding to all the leaders. That's what is my take on this.
Thank you, Sandeep. Can I have it from Govin? Can you answer the same question?
Yeah, thank you. And I don't know whether I'll get the opportunity to thank everybody or not, but before I answer, I would like to thank Sandeep, Kaur, and yourself. This is really awesome conversation because it helps me to clear my thought as I'm working in the organization, and being a HR leader has to also support. So thank you guys for contributing to the success of what I'm trying to do here. Now, answering to your question on the role of HR leader, large organizations, very large organizations do have change management functions. And that's where I think they have like the biggest control, and the HR has a limited role to play. But I would say that majority of the organization do not have the change management. Sometimes organization fails to understand that change management itself is a very important thing. They think that it can be done off the table by anybody. And now when they think of it can be done off the table by anybody, the first person come in mind is the HR head of the organization to drive that change. Sometimes HR leaders are not prepared for it, right? It's very, I can be vulnerable and say that, if you ask me to start doing a change management project, I might like to have my own research before going into it, right? 1.5 years back, I would have been in a very bad shape if you asked me to do a big change management, because change management is a special skill itself, right? So because majority of the organization have HR leaders who are driving those change, I would say that the HR leaders role is very key in bringing all the stakeholders to make sure that we are doing all the impact analysis on who is getting impacted. And the most important thing is to make sure that it reaches to an end and people don't drop it in between. So that is what I would say. That's the role of myself at this point in time, and other HR leaders, and many of them are very senior here on the call as well.
Thank you, Govin. Thank you very much. And yeah, over to you, Kaur. I'm sure these two people have covered most of the things, but yeah, the last one will have the opportunity to conclude. Yes, Kaur, over to you.
So I think you see in India and South Asia, we still have a very top-down kind of approach. So we really look forward to senior leadership, or in typical companies we'll call it management. I'm trying to move away from that word. So what happens is there's still a quantum of shyness or not doing it in the senior leadership, or not be able to demonstrate. I think to me, an effective HR leader is be able to influence upwards, because may or may not, by virtue of your levels, grades, you may or may not be at the same level, but that's irrespective. So having those leaders, the senior leaders, to be able to demonstrate any change that needs to be brought about, and then having it top down, I think is the key role to me, from a senior leader perspective. We are saying that we are working hybrid, and then you see your C-suites coming into work because of whatever reasons, to the office every day, and then they expect, you can work hybrid. That doesn't work, right? Because you are actually putting lateral pressure on your teams to be in the office, because you're in the office, and end of the day, you're working in India or Bangladesh or Pakistan or Sri Lanka, right? So the cultures are still very hierarchical. For that matter, in Singapore, right, in Southeast Asia, also the cultures are it's very hierarchical. So you tend to follow what your boss is doing, right? So the right influence is what the HR has to tell the senior leader that what you are going to do, your teams are going to follow. I'll give you an example. I'm trying to revamp my office space to a more collaborative and a decompressing office space today, right? And I told my admin to remove 30% seats. Is it what? Remove 30% seats? I said yes, because we are not utilizing the full office, right? So let's create more collaborative space here. And then I told my RVB South Asia that, you and me should be having our coffee in this collaborative space. Otherwise, it'll only, gather dust. Yeah. So we are spending an investment here, but then you and me should be seen, talking, or senior leadership should be seen using this space. Then only, the employees will break their ice to, utilize it. And eventually there'll be a cultural shift, right? So to drive that cultural shift, I think the influence has to go to them, And you need to revalidate also. They'll do it for the first couple of days and then they'll again go back to their shell with an excuse that they're busy, right? So you need to pull them out and drive the people agenda together with them. I'll give you a simplest of examples here. I think they're more complex. There are more complex examples available where they kind of see, oh, it is an HR matter. No, it is a leadership matter, and me and you are going to do it together. That's I think my message to in response to your question, Dewang. Yeah.
Thank you, Kuvar. I think very well articulated. And before I move to Faisal, I would request participants to put their questions in the chat box. I could see a couple of questions already there, but we would like to run a poll first. So over to you, Faisal.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Devang. So before we move to the Q&A round, we will be running a poll to have the participants' feedback. During this time, we request all our participants to feel free and put their questions in the chat window. Mr. Devang, you can take the questions that are coming up.
Right.
You can start taking the questions, Mr. Devang.
Okay. Thank you. So yeah, I think I got 3 questions. So we'll start with the question of Pooja, and I'll request panelists whoever can answer these questions. So this is open for all the panelists. I'm sorry, I again missed the questions. 1 minute. Yeah. So what Pooja has asked is how to help employees build resilience to welcome the change. I guess during the Q&A session, I guess Govin and Sandeep both tried answering this question, but still we can take up this question: how to help employees build resilience to welcome the change.
So I think the straight answer is they are to be motivated, and the best motivation is to show them what is there in it for them. So if they got to know that what is the change bringing about to them, they'll forget about everything and they'll become more resilient.
And if I can just add one on it, I think the first point is exactly why, like what's in for them. And I would top of it, I would say one more thing is that never think, Pooja, that it's gonna be a one-time effort. Change management is a long journey. And what we forget is that we just said it once and then we forget. I think what's in for me should be something which should be said again. There would be some challenges, questions, and we should be open to address them again and again till the time that change become part of their life. So I think if we understand that, that will be helpful for them to develop that resilience for the change.
Thank you, Sandeep and Govin. I guess Pooja, you got the answer. Thank you, Pooja, for asking the question. Next question is from Bhaumik Shah, and his question is how to assess change management skills in employees.
Well,
Yeah.
I can't address that because I'm still developing my own change management skills. So learning from the story, let's not answer what I don't think I have developed yet.
But there are tools available in the market which tells you that how prone you are or how quickly you are ready to adapt to a change. So majority of the leadership tools, assessment tools do check whether you are a change leader or you are going to adapt to a change faster. But there are exclusive tools also. I cannot advertise any product at this forum, but you can find out there are many.
Yeah, just to add to what Sandeep said, I think whenever you are these days, you are measuring potential a lot. In addition to performance, you are doing a lot of potential kind of mapping to future roles, and then change management or how the individual will behave or react to a change situation is a key measure to see that whether in a potential bigger role this person would be suitable, or if not, what kind of a training or gap management or gap analysis is required. So agility is one of the attributes to your question, which is measured or not measured, or mapped rather, I would say, to kind of come to a conclusion that what are your scores on being agile, and there are tools to kind of come to a conclusion. Yeah, that's the attribute you measure for.
There is another one which I would like to add. See, if you really want to check somebody's change management skill, whether he would be able to drive a change and all. So traditionally, the method of giving him a project to manage it end to end. So apart from his or her job which she is doing, give her a project to drive from end to end. That will tell, I mean, it's an assessment to check whether the person will be doing it correctly or not. There is no right and wrong answer to that. It's a project success which will tell how capable or how skilled you are in driving a change. So those are some of the traditional methods. It can be a small pilot, it can be a proof of concept creation, or it can be a full project. But those are the methods which you should try if you want to check somebody's change management skill.
Yeah, typically you call them a stretch project in a British or American company. That's how we name it, because you are stretching the person beyond their business as usual during the day job. Yeah, right, Sandeep. Thank you.
Thank you, Kuvar and Sandeep. Yeah, we have two more questions, and Faisal, can we take those two? I guess we are done with the time, but two we can accommodate, right?
Yes,
thank you, Faisal. So yeah, the first question is from Tushar. He is asking that what role does mentoring play in creating change agents in organization? So yeah.
It's a very good question, but I don't have any straight answer. So if I put it together, what you are doing is in your companies, you are trying to create change agents, and creating any skill like these people who are going to be change agents, they are going to be the lighthouses which you're going to create within your company. You may require somebody who is guiding them to or monitoring them that whether they are going in the right direction or not. So mentoring does play a role in creating change agents. So identify people who are influential, who are able to influence 360 degrees, not only downward, but 360 degrees. And those are the people who can become the change agent. And there is a mentor who is guiding them or monitoring their progress can be a scope, I can think.
I think I would see it as somebody you can confide into, because you do goof up during change management, right? So, I mean, I have, let's say, my boss as my mentor, which is rare, but I do. So kind of, you should have, or you should act as one. Yeah, you can also act as a mentor and provide that cushion when, your team can come to you when they have, either not got the expectations or they have an idea. In the ideation stage, also give them that space as a mentor. So I think those things really work wonder, because to manage a change, they may not be a straight road, right? So there would be hit and trials, and those hit and trials cost you in terms of time, efforts, or risks. So yeah, you act as one, and you also expect one to be there to have that space to kind of go and vent out. That's my kind of response and experience to have a mentor during change management. Yeah.
Thank you, Kuvar and Sandeep. Tushar, hope you got the answer. And the last question is from Miri. What are the key things to keep in mind to communicate changes to employees in turbulent times?
If I can just take that, because I have the real experience of that and some learnings hard way. The one is, I would say, be honest. Don't try to sugarcoat stuff, right? And I'm not saying be harsh, but be honest. Don't try to sugarcoat, because people are not fool. They understand. Second, have empathy. Don't try to be rude to people. Small word, they will come across you. And now is the digital era, so be careful of how you treat your people, and support them. Even if They are staying with you, they are not staying with you, even if they're changing their role because it has impacted them somewhere. Have honesty to support them. These are my three things, my three learnings, I would say, in the times when we went through any such any such exercise where it is impacting people directly. These three key things always work. It is never easy, by the way, but it will help you to not make it harder for you and your organization and people who are impacted because of that.
Thank you, Govind. Hope Nidhi got the answer. And with that, I think we are done with Q&A. And I would really like to thank all my esteemed panelists. It was really wonderful, knowledgeable, and interactive session. And thank you, Sandeep, Kuvar, and Govind. Over to you, Faisal.
So before Faisal, I must say that very well organized, Faisal, and thanks to Govind and Kuvar. Lots of learning for me. Lots of takeaways. One full page of takeaways which I am carrying along. Thank you very much.
We reciprocate, Sandeep, and also Govind, and also thanks to Devang and Faisal. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Devang, for taking us through this session and making it such interactive and exciting. Thank you, Mr. Sandeep, Mr. Govind, and Mr. Kuvar for sharing your valuable thoughts and insights with us. It has been a privilege having you all for this engrossing session. To all those who wish to learn and grow, you can access the recording of today's session on a YouTube channel shared in the chat window. Before we conclude with today's session, we would also want to thank all the associations, Geisha, NASSCOM, COE, Talgro, TLE, WICCI, LinkedIn Local, Ahmedabad, and India for supporting HREI events. To know more about these associations, request you kindly visit the link provided in the chat window. Do join us for our next Connecting the Dots session on the topic Overwhelming Challenges in the Digital Age on 15th December 2022. That's it for today's webinar. Hope to see you soon. Stay safe, take care, and bye for now. Thank you, Mr. Kuvar. Thank you, Mr. Govind. Thank you, Mr. Devang. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Thanks, Devang.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Bye.